TwinWest members have always very much supported education, and actually TwinWest, I think, has been out in front in many issues around education. So we're very happy to bring this program to you this morning. The global demand for skilled workers means our student must meet higher academic standards and expectations. Our students need to be prepared not just to meet the standards, but to be leaders in an increasingly diverse and interconnected world. So we really need to challenge our educational institutions to become more accountable, more student-focused, and more innovative in order to prepare Minnesota students for employment and or higher education. And our active participation is crucial to the success of our schools, and schools are crucial to meeting the business community's future workforce needs. Employers should maintain a strong working relationship with school district for each benefit, the school district and the business community as well. So this morning's program will highlight how reform initiatives at the Capitol are focused on closing achievement gaps and making sure students are the top priority in classroom achievement. While most agree that education reform is a top priority, there are sharp differences on how to accomplish these results. So to talk about the importance of education, we are very excited. We have two powerhouse leaders on the subject with us today. First, I'd like to introduce Tom Dooher. Tom Dooher is a tireless advocate, not only for teachers in the teaching profession, but also for students and great public schools. He is a homegrown Minnesotan. He attended Armstrong High School in the Twin Cities, here in our footprint, went to college in the Twin Cities, and got his first full-time teaching job in the same public school district where he grew up. He's currently serving his second term as the leader of Minnesota's statewide Teachers Union. Education Minnesota represents 70,000 teachers, education support professionals, and higher education faculty members. It is the first merged state affiliate of the American Federation of Teachers and the National Education Association. So please join me in welcoming the President of Education Minnesota, Tom Dooher. We also have Senator Jen Olson. Senator Jen Olson began her 19-year career in public education in 1959 as a classroom teacher and continued as a program development consultant at the Minnesota Department of Education. She has both a Bachelor of Science and Doctorate in Education from the University of Minnesota. She began her time in and elected in office in 1971 as a member of the Parks and Recreation Commission for the City of Minnetrista. She continued serving through 1982 as a member of the chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission, a member of the City Council, and mayor. She was elected to the Minnesota Senate for the term beginning in 1983. Throughout her 30 years of Senate service, her successes have covered a wide range of topics. Her work on all students achieving reading proficiency by third grade has led to or supported nation-leading initiatives that make significant progress toward that goal. Currently, Senator Olson is President pro tem of the Senate and Chair of the Senate Education Committee, and this will be her last session in the legislature. She did announce before the 2010 election that she would not be running for re-election. So Senator Olson, welcome to the panel, but thank you for all of your dedication in public service. Okay. Well, everybody has had, well, not everybody, that would take a long time, but all of the legislators here have had a chance to have their comments on the last in, first out bill. So we would like the two of you, so just to clarify, the bill does not end tenure, but it requires school districts to negotiate contracts that use performance as the main factor in determining the order of layoffs. So Education Minnesota, you've been very clear that you do not support this bill. So why don't we start with you why you don't support the bill, and Senator Olson, you have been a supporter, and so maybe you could share your insights as well. So we can start with you, Tom.
Thanks, Jeanette. Well, it's great to be here, and as a product of the western suburbs, it is good to be back here in TwinWest Commerce. I think, first of all, we've got to work closer together with the business community so that you understand what's happening in our schools and you can support what's happening in our schools, because what we do is we educate the future and we educate the workers that you're going to employ. So LIFO, last in, first out, there's a reason that there's a bill. There's a reason that the law is currently in place because of abuses. But it also, as Representative Benson talked about, there are in the current law the ability to negotiate that seniority is not the only factor in doing that. In my school district, Robbinsdale, we have a language immersion. They are not part of the regular seniority list. We have alternative programs for students that have challenges with learning. They also have exceptions. So I think what you're seeing here is a political ploy that is a really nice bumper sticker. It sounds really good, but in practicality, it doesn't work. I was president of the Robbinsdale Federation of Teachers for 10 years. During that time, I helped with the school district counsel out those that were ineffective. So what you can't prove is the negative. You say you want the best and the brightest. Everybody wants the best and the brightest. What you might not know is there's a 3-year probationary period where many teachers that are ineffective are out for any reason. What you also might not know is that you should not wait for layoffs to get rid of ineffective teachers. It's confusing evaluation with layoff. And lastly, we are 47th in the country in class size. Research shows individual attention, smaller class size makes a difference in helping students achieve. So really, how is this helping close the achievement gap? By talking about spending all their time on seniority and how we lay off teachers. We should be investing. As companies, you invest. You want a return on the investment. You need to invest to make sure that you have the best there. And you have the best there by evaluation. And what we need to know is who are those people by the evaluation. Many of the school districts already have that. Many of them have taken advantage of the current law by negotiating other ways of laying people off. But really, the question is wrong about talking about layoffs during this time. We've got to be talking about how do we invest in our schools.
Senator Olson, what is your perspective on this legislation? Just make sure it's turned on.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this opportunity, as shy and retiring as I am about expressing my real views on things. But on the LIFO issue, I definitely am a supporter, and lest I forget, I had a visit with Senator Terry Bonhoeff, who contacted me and wanted you to know that she's on my side on this issue.
From beyond.
So it's bipartisan. I do support the repeal of LIFO as the only reason for layoffs. This isn't about culling, if you will, teaching workforces. It is about how you handle the situation when you are laying off, whether it's for declining enrollment, other kinds of changes in a school system. And for seniority, the day that you signed your contract to be the primary reason that you are laid off first does not seem to be in the long-term best interest of students. I don't think that any long-term teachers in school districts have anything to worry about if they're effective teachers. And if they've retired early on the job, maybe so, but maybe this is an opportunity to rethink that. I don't think that that is a very common case, so I'm not sure why there is the concern that as experience that you wouldn't fit into a high category of effectiveness as a teacher, and therefore that would be one factor. Seniority would still continue to be a factor, as well as your licensure qualifications under the law that is awaiting action and sent to be sent to the governor. It also has nothing to do with experience, because there are many people. It only applies and is in the strict sense that's been addressed here, is if you stay in one place for your entire career. If you happen to have taught for 10 years in one area and you move to a new school district, you're back to zero. It's the day you signed the contract. So you can have some very effective, experienced teachers that will be the first to go. The other reality is that we've been trying to do work in bringing in minority teachers, because they have, in giving them an opportunity to be effective, and they tend to be the last, among that group of last ones hired. And so they're the first to go. And it's a crying shame. It's not really in the interest of much of our teaching force as well as the students to continue with this kind of practice. I know that there are some districts that have made some headway in making changes, but it hasn't, I think it needs some additional push and guidance. A couple of weeks ago, we had the privilege of hearing the head of, I think a two-term head of the teachers union in Washington, D.C. And during that, he had been a math teacher in Washington, D.C., which is, by the way, the only one that's worse than Minnesota in its achievement gap. He has had a change of heart on this issue. He saw that that really is not in the best interest of students. And it was interesting as we had a chance to ask him questions. We hear that we need to wait until we have an evaluation system in place. We asked what came first in Washington, D.C. And he said, LIFO. We changed the LIFO practice first. Because then it only took a year to get an evaluation system in place. They're planning on it, and that's, if there's anything wrong with our bill, is that we've let that time span of 4 years to get an evaluation system in place before the LIFO repeal change would kick in. And that gives them great opportunity for foot dragging, to not get an effective evaluation system in place. So, now, I know there's a great deal of concern as to whether administrators can be fair, and some of them are pushing to in their evaluation. I believe that the principal's evaluation should come first. And I also believe that they should be held, that a portion of their evaluation should be the student achievement of their building as well. And they resisted that proportion, but if it's good for the teachers, it's good for the administrators, because they're to be the instructional leaders over that building.
Let's jump in. Let's talk a little bit about the principal evaluation. So this is an education reform topic at the Capitol. The Minnesota Chamber lists on its website the importance of improving training and accountability for principals, including assessing their leadership ability prior to hiring. This would also include mandating principal evaluations by the superintendent and using student achievement data to rate principal effectiveness. Education Minnesota notes on its website that when it comes to evaluating principals, Minnesota teachers say that parents, students, staff, and the community need to have a voice in the discussion. This idea is one of 10 key recommendations offered by teachers, according to a new report released by the Dayton administration, Education Minnesota, and the Viva Minnesota Teachers Project. So talk a little bit about why reforming principal evaluations is so important, and what are the right kind of reforms that should take place in that?
Well, I think I actually agree with Senator Olson on principal evaluation.
Second question, and we are in agreement.
Yes, I know. I wanted to note that.
That's great.
Principals need to be the instructional leader, and we need to make sure that we have the best instructional leaders helping, because when you have a great instructional leader, the climate is better not only for the staff, but it's also better for the students. So we worked with the Department of Education and Viva, which is an outside group that did a discussion with educators across the state. And I think that's one of the problems with Representative Peterson's bill, is if he really wanted to make some progress, he should have talked to educators. If you want to make progress, you talk to the people that it's going to affect. So we talked about what are those key components for principal evaluation: getting parent input, getting student input, getting staff input on how that works. What are the benchmarks for the goals of that school? What are the benchmarks of the goals of the school district? We've got the superintendent from Minnetonka. They've got, benchmarks and goals that they set up, strategic goals on how they're going to achieve as a school district. That's important, and everyone needs to be on the same page. So we believe that you not only need to have a qualified principal in there, but they have to be trained on what evaluation looks like and how we can best implement it, not only for them, but for the staff.
So, Senator Olson, is this something that it sounds like there's bipartisan support for this? Is this something that's going to move forward this session?
Well, it's in place. I think the procedure to go forward with principal evaluation, but one of the things that's in our bill is to reinstate the 35% of that evaluation should be based on student achievement. And that is, we believe,
So
is
the time
important.
together.
And by the way, our Senate author of the LIFO bill is a teacher, 25-year teacher, working with students with special needs, really special needs, in the Lino Lakes prison system. And that is being changed, so wherever she goes next, she's at 0. There's a lot, all of the cadre of teachers working in that category fit that, and they are very, very strongly supportive of being able to be based on some decision based on their effectiveness. So there's a lot of teachers out there that are not against abandoning the seniority as the only thing.
Just want to check in the back. Can everybody hear okay? Okay, good. I know sometimes the sound system is here, so just reminder to hold the mics closely. So let's talk about, so you mentioned the achievement gap, Senator Olson, and I guess it sounds like Washington, D.C. is lower than we are. Still, you know, quite a bit of improvement we can obviously do there. So talk a little bit about the achievement gap that exists. Why does it exist? And obviously we need reforms because this is not acceptable to you know, we have so much to be proud of in Minnesota in our education programs. This is really a mark on us. So what can we do to get past that, and why is it so hard to move us forward on that? So Senator Olson, do you want to start with that?
I'd be happy to. Well, the achievement gap is a complex thing in terms of what its reasons for its existence. There's no one pat answer, but the reality is that you look at the fact that 40% of our students going on to college need remedial education in reading and math. The very fundamentals, the basic things. I think that that's the first place that we need to look, and that's one of the reasons that I have enjoyed and appreciated the opportunity to work with a group of moms on a mission, to get at the heart of why we are not having our struggling readers learning to read, because they can. I think the other reality is that maybe it's a factor of No Child Left Behind bringing the subgroups into play. It did reveal the achievement gap, which I think we needed to have revealed. But the other reality is that now we can look at these categories, whether they're on free and reduced price lunch, you know, low socioeconomic, or children of color or whatever, and use that as an excuse for why they aren't doing well. I think it's the discrimination that comes with low expectations. And when we get off that kick, I think we're going to see that the attitude change, I think, is critical, that we believe that they can, in fact, learn. And then we set about to determine which students, on an individual basis, have differing needs. In the reading provisions that we have proceeded with, it's not being a hostility to teachers. It was what we found out was that the teachers aren't being prepared with all the tools they need to teach reading effectively, particularly to struggling readers. And so the rules and the measurement of the teachers before they get the licensure has been changed. And our last package last year that I was very grateful that the governor supported us in was having local districts set up their own literacy plan that involved the assessment, the involvement and engagement of parents, the upgrade and the use of staff development to strengthen teachers' ability to work toward that. And that's a tool to make them eligible for the first performance-based funding that we've done possibly in the country, and that is the literacy incentive aid, that when you're third graders, you get additional money based on the number of third graders that are reading proficiently, and also those that are making more than a year's growth. So the growth as well as the proficiency is made. We've got to crack that nut of getting young people to read, because if they don't, they're going to slide through or end up in special ed. We had the other thing is we made a major investment in the Reading Corps, which is a voluntary program, is tied with the AmeriCorps, and districts can invite them in and provide assistance to in their classrooms for the early childhood through elementary age to get them over the hurdle. And one of the things that was an interesting report that we had just a week or so ago on the Reading Corps was Dr. Heisted from the city of Minneapolis had conducted some research of matched pairs of students at those early grade levels and determining with one group, one was had Reading Corps help, the other had not. And what he was wanted to determine was what impact it had on the placement into special education. And the ones that had Reading Corps were 1/3 of what the ones that had not. And when you put them in special education, they're not always, we found that the teachers aren't always equipped with those tools to get them out, and generally the 5% will ever get out of special ed if they're placed there. So if we can prevent that, which is a costly program, and where it's always underfunded and is always cross-subsidized from the other program, if everything that we can do to prevent that continued growth in the learning disabilities category is going to allow us to do better by our teachers, as well as accomplish the other kinds of objectives we have. And now we need to tackle math as well.
So, Tom, let's the achievement gap. So what are your thoughts on how we close that gap?
Sure. I think what we need to do first is we have to invest in early childhood education. The research shows that the return on investment is 12 to 15%. And that's not only on the student that's in the early childhood, but that's on the family. Art Rolnick, who is the retired economist from the Federal Reserve here in Minneapolis, has done a longitudinal study on that. We're working with Art, and we're working actually in a pilot project in the Frogtown neighborhood of St. Paul with Regents Hospital, because they have the highest unwed mother rate in the state of Minnesota. And what is the key? It's what Senator Jen Olson said. It's about reading. Reading is the key to unlocking how you're going to achieve throughout your career in schooling. So up until age 9 or 3rd grade, you are learning to read. After that, you read to learn. So we need to do early childhood intervention and early childhood for kids that need that service. Another thing that we can do, and that we're seeing in some of our schools in the state of Minnesota and right here in the Twin City area, is have services for students that need them. If a student can't see the chalkboard or the whiteboard or the smartboard, they can't learn. So some school districts, Brooklyn Center, in St. Paul at John A. Johnson, and at Dayton's Bluff, they have services there so that students can get eyeglasses. They can get doctor's appointments so they're not missing school. If they're on task and in school, they can do that. So if we can close that reading gap, we can close the achievement gap. We also need to have smaller class sizes so they can have the individual attention, so they don't need to go into special education, so that we can get the services to those students and we start early on. We need to reach out to parents and to the communities in different ways than we have in the past. When I started teaching, we had a phone in the room, but all it was a phone, and you picked it up and you said, "Can I get an outside line?" Now, there's internet, there's email, there is the ability of parent portal, of parents checking in to see where their students are. So we need to have that constant communication with parents and reaching out in different ways than we have in the past. And finally, it's an investment. Senator Olson talked about staff development. Staff training in the current law has been eliminated. So if we want to invest in our educators so that they can have the skills to meet the needs of our students in the 21st century, we've got to have ongoing staff training, and that requires an investment in that.
So listening to the two of you, so let's put that whole LIFO thing aside for a second. I'm hearing a lot of agreement. The importance of early literacy, the importance of closing the achievement gap. So we know where we need to make improvements, but yet that it seems so challenging to get reforms in place. So what are the barriers to moving these things forward, and what can we do to break through those barriers? Senator Olson, you want?
Well, there are barriers, because it's easy to say to invest in early childhood or invest in reducing class size, but still what happens in the classroom with the effective teacher and how they teach is critical. And that's what has been important to me in the area of reading, is that we learned that the teachers weren't being prepared with all the tools they need to do that. And one of the moms read all of the syllabi from 29 institutions that prepare teachers for elementary school teaching, and found many had just one 3-credit course on the teaching of reading. Well, what's more important in those years than doing that? The reading wars are still going on between whole language and phonics. It's not an either or, it's both. That's got to stop. There's got to be a recognition that young people need to learn the structure of the language, and they need to get that embedded in their brain, because once it's there, it will always be used. And that's true, I think, in math as well. But somehow in our teaching profession, and I come out of that as well, there's been this sense that we've got to be creative, and you can't be repetitive. Memorization is bad, and all of these kinds of things. The old expression, drill and kill, has been, you'll kill. I say we can't use that anymore, because we've got Coach Kill at the University of Minnesota, and you can bet he's going to drill. I've never seen a parent, I don't think any of you have, at the fence yelling at a coach that stop making them do this over and over, or they're going to lose interest in the sport. Or how about practicing the piano? I mean, in so many areas of life, the proficiency comes from that repetition and getting it to be a part of you. And so I think in our teaching, we have got to get past that and recognize that there are some aspects, the foundations in both of those, math and reading, need to be instilled and learned. And it may not be the most popular methods that are used, but I think the teachers that are using them, and that's the Reading Corps does use those scientific-based methods to get those across. And many of the teachers that they're working with too say, how come I didn't learn this? And so it's not just, even in early childhood, there's good results with Reading Corps working at those levels. It's appropriate to those young people. And it's one of the reasons that I had some concern about the route that we were going, particularly with our Parent Aware program, that it was all input related. We've done that for so long. We need to know what the outcomes are going to be, and that in fact we're using methods that actually are effective. This year we've got a bill, and I don't know what's going to happen, that Senator Bonhoeff brought it forward, to use some of the money, the $4 million, for early childhood education, and for a program called Parent-Child Home, that is run in this state. Very evidence-based success, going into homes with low-income people with a book each week, and reading and working with the child and with the parent. And they've had outstanding results in a home-based thing that the Jewish Family Services is running. It's not a faith-based program, that they have picked that up. And it is, we've put some money, redirected some money for them to expand that. And I think it's another model. It isn't always a classroom or institution-based early childhood education that is of value. If we can strengthen the ability of parents to function effectively and do the right thing in the home, that's also going to give the young people a leg up. So there are challenges along the way in our teacher preparation, because we'd have lots of pushback in that. And I'm sorry, the Minnesota represents the teacher preparation folks as well, but I think they're starting to realize that this has to change, because the rules are there, and the teachers will be tested on that learning before they're granted their license. And I think all along the way, we need to be digging a little deeper and saying, okay, we can put money in it, but what are we going to get? Are people equipped to do the right thing and understanding what it needs to be done if we're going to actually make some real movement in changing and closing that achievement gap?
Do you want to respond?
Sure.
Go ahead.
I think there are two things you need to know. Besides the parent, the number one indicator of a student's success is an effective teacher. The Bush Foundation, private foundation, is investing $40 million over the next 10 years to revamp teacher preparation in the state of Minnesota and the borders of North Dakota, South Dakota, Iowa, and Wisconsin. Those are colleges and universities that prepare teachers that have voluntarily decided to go into this program and to revamp how they're preparing future educators. We are on board with that. We've been working with them on how best we can do that. So we're using research and best practice to make sure that those colleges of education become the most effective so that we have the highest achieving people coming out. Secondly, it's not about drilling Till. And terrific that Jerry Till is here, but he doesn't teach how to read. What we need is real solutions that go deeper than a bumper sticker. We need real solutions that talk about a comprehensive education. We need art and music because that's how the brain also triggers how you learn to read. So you don't just do reading 6 hours a day because you don't know how to read. You do other comprehensive education. What does that teach you? It develops your mind and your brain. The more we know about brain development, the more we need a comprehensive education. What we need more, we don't need to know how to fill out an oval on a standardized test. And right now we're in the standardized test year or month of the year. Chris, who I work with, he's got a 9-year-old daughter. She loves school. He went to McAllister, his wife went to McAllister, his wife is a doctor. They love learning. Lily, his daughter, loves learning. She came home, she's like, Dad, oh my gosh, all we're doing is testing. The teachers are telling us about testing. The principal's coming in and telling us what to eat. The teacher's telling us how much to sleep. This doesn't affect Lily because of the effective parents that she has, and she's in a good school district in Bloomington. Those results don't come back until next school year. So it's not helping that teacher become more effective by adjusting her teaching. It's a systems check. So what we need to do is make sure we have a comprehensive education so that kids learn how to think, be critical thinkers, how to communicate, and how to work with others. Those are the skills we need in the 21st century, not how to fill in an oval on a basic skills test. So I think we need to make sure that we're investing in the critical pieces that we know are going to help our students achieve.
So I'm just looking at, I've got a couple more questions I want to get through, and we don't have much time, and I'd love to leave some time for questions, so we're going to do a little speed rounds here. Don't have to be yes, no answers, not that kind of a speed round, but a little bit. So I want to talk about workforce development a little bit. So this is obviously something that's very important to the business community. And as we look to train the next generation of workers, you know, even in this tough economic times when there's perhaps not as many jobs available, we're still hearing from employers that they're having a hard time finding employees who have the skill set that they need. So what can the K-12 system, and I guess higher education system as well, but do to better prepare students for a competitive global economy? So Tom, let's start with you on that.
Well, I think it's some of the points I made earlier. We've got to invest in early childhood education. Whoops, we lost a sponsor. And it was
Sorry,
Phoenix. I'm sorry, Phoenix. It's got to be a more seamless system instead of we're going to do preschool and early childhood, then we're going to have K-12, and then we're going to have higher ed. It needs to be more seamless. And we've got to meet the needs of those students so that they can have the skills. You've got to have some post-secondary education in order to be successful. You can't drop out anymore and have a life that you're going to be able to live and work in the community and be able to raise a family. So I think what we need to be looking at is how do we make those more seamless? Where does the research show that we need to make our first investments? That's early childhood. That makes it more seamless so the kids are more ready to enter kindergarten. It wasn't that long ago that kindergarten wasn't a mandated grade. Now we need to go before kindergarten. And so we need to make sure that we have all of the systems in place and the investment where they're going to make a difference in how we're going to educate our kids from early childhood through higher education.
Senator Olson, workforce development, how do we get closer to what we need?
Well, I'm so glad you asked. That's another one of my burdens, is the fact that we have had a diminishment at the K-12 level in our career and tech kinds of opportunities for preparation. There's some very good programs out there, but in the rush to put all the eggs in the academic basket, we've lost some great opportunities. Senator Stumpf and I have been crusading on this for some time, and we're hoping to make some headway this year. But one of the things that we got some help from the department in an indicator, the Perkins indicator, Perkins is the federal law relative to this, that determined that if a student has had about 200 hours, equivalent of 1 hour for a year, in a career tech area, their graduation rate, this is some of the data that's been collected, is 97.12. That means they're staying in the school, they're not dropping out, and they are getting the academic courses as well as the applied learning in that process. We need to keep that combination, because not all children learn well in a straight academic model. There's many of us that are more hands-on and doers, and we see the relevance and the importance. You caught that.
That's a nice layup.
And you're hands-on? Good. But that is an area that we would like to reinforce. We split. I like his comment about developing the seamless system, but we have split it up over the years when we separated the technical institutes from the school districts, and then merged the systems in higher ed and separated them further. And some of them are closing some of the very programs like machine trades, where updated with all the technology that's involved in that, they aren't getting students, and they're closing the programs. And that's where we're getting, I hear virtually every day from someone, I can't get anybody to work in this area. We've got good paying jobs, but kids don't see the vision, they don't catch it, and they aren't prepared to take it on. And so we're hoping to do a couple of things, not only enhance the funding that is available. It's now on a small levy for what they had been expending, of letting that float up a bit so that they can keep their programs. Also recognizing that in many of the areas, they are learning some of the academic areas, and they should be getting credit for that. Agriculture, the ag teachers have more economics than a social study teacher that's licensed to teach economics. And in the sciences, they're getting a tremendous amount of science. It's more of a blended science. It's not packaged in exactly the same way. Why shouldn't that be recognized? Because I agree, there should be other means of evaluation that they've achieved standards other than just filling in the ovals on a test. And we are also looking at, for those schools and students that don't have access to that, to be able to explore through post-secondary enrollment options at the 10th grade level, take one course in one of the MNSCU system schools to get acquainted with and see the relevance. Hopefully, it will be enough to keep these kids from dropping out. When they drop out, you lose all of their aid for the schools. If we can keep them in there and have some relevance to what they're learning, I think everybody is better off. So we're trying to get that, in fact, done, and I hope that we're successful. The MNSCU was a little troubled because they want the top third coming from, but some of these kids haven't been performing well. It doesn't mean that they're not bright. why not give them a chance and get that spark turned on? And so we hope that they will open the doors to that. We did put a little bit of an extra pressure on it, that if they reject them, that they can choose a proprietary school for one of the career tech, taking that career tech course, and on the same basis that qualify under receiving state grant money for other purposes. So,
Tom, I want to give you a chance to talk about a program that Education Minnesota has, the K-12 Business Connection, which I understand is an initiative to give participants from the business community an opportunity to see what it is to be an educator. So can you just tell us a little bit about that program?
We have a statewide K-12 Business Connection. And what I would invite you to do is contact us, and we can get you in touch with your local school, and we can get you to be part of that school system for a day. And you don't take the red carpet tour, but you come in and you help with the teacher preparing for the day, going through the entire day, and seeing what it's like, because it's changed. If you go into our schools, you see the great things that are happening on a regular basis. We were up in Duluth at Lester Park, and Lester Park, the previous building was built in 1918. It was not handicap accessible. It was October, and the boiler wasn't working, so the school was cold. We had a realtor that owns his own real estate company in Duluth spend a day with a fifth grade teacher. He was amazed at what was happening, and he was also amazed at the class was so crowded it was coming out to the doors. It was parent-teacher conferences that night, and as he was leaving, a couple was coming in to visit with their student's teacher, and the father had to put his wife on his back and physically carry her up the stairs because it wasn't handicap accessible. So his eyes were opened up, and we all know if you're going to have a strong community, you have to have strong schools, because what's the first question someone asks the realtor? What are the schools like? So what we are asking you to do is become part of it and learn about what's happening. We had the mayor of Moorhead come into Horizon Middle School in Moorhead. He owns an electrical contracting company up there. He said, I drive by this school every day. I didn't know what was going on. He went into a robotics class all day for 7th grade. He was learning about 3D imaging and how the kids would design on their computer the pieces for that robot, send it to a 3D printer, fabricate those pieces, put them together, and get their robot to work. So he learned something, not only as the mayor of Moorhead, but as a business owner. So we believe a stronger connection between business and our schools is going to help everyone and help you understand what's happening and help us understand what you need for workforce development. So I would encourage you to contact us, let us know how we can be of assistance to you, and make it a greater connection between the businesses in our school and our schools.
Tom, that's a great way to end this discussion. So thank you very much for that. We could talk for a lot longer, but we always try to commit to you. You have for the rest of your day, maybe somebody's even golfing. But so Senator Olson, I want to thank you so much for everything that you've done for education and for TwinWest throughout the year. So I want to take this opportunity to publicly thank you for that. Tom, thank you so much for your leadership in education and for both of you for being with us this week. So I just have a couple of announcements here. I want to let everyone know, join TwinWest for a special event. We have breakfast with U.S. Senator Amy Klobuchar on April 30th. We will start the program at 8 a.m. in the Marriott Minneapolis West in St. Louis Park. Senator Klobuchar will keynote this public policy program addressing federal issues that are critical to Minnesota and the business community. You can register online or just stop anyone with TwinWest here today and let them know that you want to reserve a spot for that. You won't want to miss the signature TwinWest policy event, so I want to make sure everybody is aware of that. Also, special thanks to Grand Casino Mille Lacs and Hinckley for your support. Comcast, Home Service Plus, Alina Hospitals and Clinics, Circadian, Politics Minnesota, and Capital Report, Pan America, Voyager Bank, University of Phoenix, Swank Audiovisual. Thank you. We really appreciate your sponsorship so much. Thank you for doing that. That concludes our program. Everybody have a fabulous Friday and an even better weekend. Thanks.